At 5 or 6 a.m., depending on the seasons, Fajr Salah has arrived and is on its way to soon expiring. Within 100 minutes, an hour and a half. In that hour, a small blessed group of Muslims pull themselves out of bed, they wash up, head out to the masjid perhaps, remembering Allah Azza wa Jal, making tasbih, perhaps using the siwak from the prophetic example, until they arrive at these homes that Allah erected, the houses of Allah, fi buyutin adhina Allahu an turfa'a wa yudhkara fiha ismuh. Houses He permitted that they be erected for the mention of His name, and they say and they mean, Allah is bigger than everything in my life. Allahu Akbar. Whereas the massive majority of the ummah in that hour is asleep in their beds. And if there is in a home a mother or a father or both that pray, most likely the older children at the same time are still sleeping in their beds. Fajr time has now expired. The Fajr is over. And now it's time for school or work. All of a sudden, the house bursts with life, bursts with activity. The alarms are going off like they're sirens. Like people have to run for the bomb shelters, and the hallways get crowded, make lines in front of your bathrooms. And even if you go to Muslim countries, even the streets will tell this story. A moment ago, an hour ago, they were silent graveyards. All of a sudden, they're buzzing. Traffic in the streets and people cutting each other off and honking horns, and there's coffee lines. These 2 hours tell a great deal of the story about the condition of the Muslims with regards to their deen. You know, there are many parents out there, many mothers and many fathers that wish that their children pray Fajr on time. But that's it. It's just a wish. It stops there. If it doesn't happen, nothing changes. But if you compare it on the other hand, if your child were a few minutes late for work or school, what takes place? Immediately, the tensions rise. And you storm over to their bed, and you say and you do whatever is necessary to make sure this child gets there on time. Question, is it wrong for people to be concerned with their jobs, their careers? Is it wrong to be protective of your child's degree and his future? Absolutely not. In fact, it's undeniably Islamic that you consider it wrong to be a burden on society by choice, right? It is absolutely wrong for you to be a burden on the people. That is clear. But how can it ever be acceptable that our work, our career, our schooling that leads up to it, our educations, is greater in our lives than Salatul Fajr? I'm not talking about Salatul Jama'ah, praying in congregation. I'm talking about what has never been debated in the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam as an obligation for the past 1500 years. I'm talking about the super foundation of Islam. I'm talking about what every single scholar in this ummah, bar none, there is no scholar you will ever find among humanity or even in the jinn that has said it is permissible for you to leave Salatul Fajr until its time expires if it's in your hands. If you can do anything about it. So long as you're conscious and you're not a woman who's on menses or postpartum, there's a time for Salah, it cannot be deferred beyond it. As a matter of fact, Ibn Hazm and Ibn al-Qayyim say all the scholars of Islam will also agree that missing a prayer deliberately until its mandatory time expires is the greatest sin by ijma', by unanimous agreement, greater than murder, greater than drinking wine, greater than zina, greater than cruelty to your parents. Do we see it that way?